All right, ladies and gentlemen, we apologize for the delay, but I promise you, this one's going to be worth it because our guest here tonight, he's become one of our favorites on Sportswire Radio. We've had him on a couple of different times here, and he's obviously been a staple for Wrestling Championship Entertainment. We've had a lot of coverage about them because they are getting ready to kick off their season here in a few short weeks, and he's certainly got a lot to say. We've got a huge injury update with him. Maybe we'll see if hope springs eternal. He needs no further introduction, but we're going to give it to him anyway. So, without wait for it, further ado here on the Sports Report, number one, Global Sports Show, pro wrestling star here from Wrestling Championship Entertainment. They call him the picture of perfection, Kodak. My friend,
I
how
appreciate.
are you?
I'm doing good, man. I love that intro so much. It gives me chills just hearing it. And I'm glad to be back. It's so good to be here, man. How are you doing?
Absolutely, no question about that. It was funny. We had on earlier today, UK time in the evening, Bentley, the vigilante of pro wrestling, and we had wound up having Bentley's comments, and he said almost the same thing as you. And we have also been joined here from somebody named Skulls who says YouTube is not live, but I have YouTube showing up on my screen. That could be a YouTube issue, but we'll come back to all of that here in a second, plus much, much more. But you, my friend. Now, I noticed something. We've had you on a couple of times since that heinous attack from Craven Rage, the ruler of the WCE Yard, who's going to come on here Wednesday night with us on Sportswire Radio. And I think, now I'm not a doctor, but it looks to me as if Mr. Kodak Kid, I don't see that neck brace. So for those that are listening and watching here on Sportswire Radio, set the tables for us on what's going on.
I did get rid of the neck brace, which is really nice, mainly because I'm past the taking care of it, kind of making sure nothing bad happens phase, and now I'm in the physical therapy stage of everything. I do a lot of exercises, and I can move it. So for the most part, I move it pretty well now. I have this like headband thing that I wear with a weight attached to it, and I gotta do these little back and forth things. But for the most part, it's pretty much where it needs to be. Doctor's still not too sure if getting back in the ring's a possibility, but we're getting there. Everything seems to be going the
Well,
right direction.
what I want to know first is how are you getting used to the headband? Because you don't seem like a headband guy.
Well, it's literally like a headband, and it's got a string on it, and it holds weights at the bottom, and then I just kind of do this thing back and forth, and then I can go side to side with it, and it's literally like lifting weights with your head. It's kind of weird.
Now, I might be in shape. I don't know if I've ever lifted weights like that, but I certainly am very delighted to hear that you're feeling a lot better. And, we've had you on a couple of times since obviously everything that's gone down. And mentally now, do you feel like almost in a way, maybe a small symbolic way that because the neck brace is off, that there's maybe a light at the end of the tunnel? Or walk me through your thoughts on that.
Yeah, the light at the end of the tunnel seems pretty good, man. I'll be honest with you. I'm feeling invincible. To be straight honest with you, you get that neck brace, you get the neck brace off. Invincibility comes after that. But the doctors, they get to the point where it's like they sound like they're gonna be like giving me the okay, and then they give me the letdown of we're not too sure. We should just see how it goes, and it's a slow process. We'll just say it that way. But man, invincibility, it's a key thing here.
Well, you're certainly somebody in the ring that definitely knows a thing or two about that. And let me get to a few comments here first. Skulls, who I'm going to be asking you about in a little while, because obviously he's having his little battle with Mr. Craven
Yeah.
Rage, and he's actually even interrupted in a WCE show we had not too long ago with Nicholas Krentz and the New Messiahs in the house. He has Skulls in the house. Darkfire is here with us. He says, "What's happening, brother?" So, what is happening? Basically, that's what we want to
Hey,
know.
hey there, Dark Soul. It's good to hear from you. Things are good. Things are looking up. Not totally up, but we're looking up, and
well,
everything's
well,
good.
technically, wait. Technically, to kind of make a little bit of light of this, you can actually look up now, right? Because with the neck brace, you can't look up, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm looking up. See, I'm seeing the heavens, and it's coming down to it.
Well, listen, that's why I wanted to try to make light of that. And also, Skulls wants to say that we want to send our condolences to Andrew Pace, who had passed away of the SWF. Certainly want to give our thoughts and prayers to many impacted by that. And certainly we do definitely want to join Skulls in that. But, I'll come back to some of that and we'll talk a little bit further about Darkfire. I'm sure undoubtedly is going to be a part of things at Luck of the Draw in a couple of short
Yeah,
weeks. But I mean, we've asked you, and you said, "Well, how did you keep things going? Did you watch wrestling? All that stuff." Now, but I mean, do you now? I know you say that there's not full light out of the tunnel, but do you feel like, in a sense, that at least you can visualize things for the first time? And you obviously having a neck brace on is a big deal. Now that you got the neck brace
yeah.
off, I mean, day to day activities have to feel better. I know we're slowly getting there, but I mean, can you visualize those moments of maybe returning to the ring? I don't know, maybe even get even at a one Craven Rage.
I think about it all the time. Um, in the beginning, it was very dark. As you bring up the light of the tunnel, it looked so dark and gloomy for a while there, and then slowly but surely the light kind of started to appear. But now all I visualize is getting even with Craven Rage. That's the light at the end of the tunnel. He might be a dark ruler of the yard, but he is my light at the end of the tunnel. Once I get to him, and he can't hide behind this so-called hold management is put on us. As soon as that's up, he's mine.
Well, we're going to certainly find out. I have to ask you a question and kind of going on Craven Rage here for a second as we are here with the picture of perfection. Mr. Kodak Kid certainly has one of my more favorite theme songs in Wrestling Championship Entertainment. I'll definitely say it's definitely a catchy song, and I hope everybody goes to WCE Heat on Facebook, WCEHeat.com, and YouTube as well for more information on our friends over at Wrestling Championship Entertainment. But, I feel like there's been wrestlers left and right that have called out Craven Rage and challenged him and said this and said that. But you, it seems to be different. I don't know. I mean, I feel like I had on all these new kids on the block that came on, or
Yeah,
some of these shows on the Saturday show, or some of these wrestlers that, maybe some would say are not quite up to the standards of, let's say, someone like yourself, as an example. No disrespect to some of those wrestlers, right? But
well,
they're coming
no,
on
I
and
appreciate it.
but they're coming on and talking about Craven Rage. They're gonna get him. They're gonna do this. They're gonna do that. But you're the guy that kind of stood there and actually made him do what he did to you because, in a way, maybe he had a sign of respect towards you. Maybe he feared you. I mean, you have to be sitting back and kind of watching, almost and chuckling these wrestlers at them and how they're calling out Craven Rage. I mean, what do you make of all these wrestlers that have been calling out Craven Rage?
It's humorous for sure. The reason being behind it being humorous is I don't think any of them. Everybody thinks it's just going to be a cakewalk with Craven Rage. It's going to be one of those things you can just take him down. But so many people have tried that before, and he's proven time and time again it's
Hey, look,
not that easy.
JDT, he ran him out of town, right? JDT basically said, you know what? I can't do it no more. I
Yeah,
can't beat him. I mean, Nicholas Crenson, the new Nicholas Crenson, the new Messiah couldn't beat him. I mean, Sean Jovi's had his wars with him. Darkfire's had his wars with him. And people on the big stage have seen it. But yet you're the guy that's really come the closest to anybody of really beating him. And look at what he did to you, basically because some would say that you were probably the guy knocking on the door that might have finished the job.
I had his number. I had his number. I faced him at Vindication. He beat me, but he had to give me the low blow and kick me right in my face to beat me. Then beat the Heat. You had beat the Heat. I had him tapping in the middle of the ring. and then the ref was down, and then he somehow squirmed past me. He's not going to squirm past me a third time. And to me, this isn't even about he's the all-out champion, all that good stuff. It has nothing to do with the title. It has to do with him. We need to finish what we started in the beginning. This needs to end, and it's going to as long as I'm able to walk through those ropes one more time.
Well, I'm going to have a question come up on the screen from one of those individuals who's actually from an outside company that has called out
Okay.
Craven Rage, and he's been on with us a couple of times. You might have heard of his name by now. His name is Skulls, and he is the
Yeah.
soul hunter, and the soul collector is, I think I famously said about him, but he does actually collect souls. But he has a question for you. He says, what advice would you have for Skulls when it comes to Craven Rage?
Uh, Skulls, you need to expect the unexpected when it comes to Craven Rage. He'll do anything he can to win, and he might just do that. When it comes to Craven Rage, don't underestimate him. Everybody who calls him out and gets taken down so easily because they think it's going to be a cakewalk. It's not going to be a cakewalk. If you get in the ring with Craven Rage, it is going to be a fight. It's going to be a real fight that you need to be physically ready for and mentally ready for.
Would you say that fair to say, and I'm almost trying to phrase this in the nicest way because obviously Skulls is one of our favorites here before we get to some more comments. Do you think that Skulls is going about it the right way so far, or how do you feel Skulls is going about Craven Rage so far from your vantage point, unobjectively?
He's making his name known. I mean, you don't just call out the ruler of the yard willy nilly like that. I mean, he's definitely doing what I think he's doing what he needs to do to get the attention of Craven Rage, because that's the first fight you got to do is get his attention. He's not just gonna, anybody calls him out. He doesn't ever take any of it seriously. So I think Skulls definitely is going about it the right way.
Okay, all right, that's fair. And I certainly wanted to at least do that. And also, Prince Charles is in the house. We had him on here in the past, and he does some commentary for us in Wrestling
Yeah.
Championship Entertainment. And he says, "What's up, Kodak?" So, what's up?
Not much, Charles. It's been a while. I can't, man. He's such a good commentator. He
Yes.
said a lot of bad things about me
Well,
and
he's a
my
bad
place with
Craven
Craven.
Rage guy. He's basically the
He's
leader of the
he's
Craven
so
Rage fan club.
so I'll forgive him for that since he's so into Craven Rage. But he's so good at what he does. And he was the one that broke the news about the whole
Yep.
Craven Rage me thing. And not too much, Charles.
Okay, all right. And I think Dogfire already asked this question, but he says, "How are you?"
I'm doing good. I'm getting there slowly but surely, but I'm doing good. Thank you,
Let me
Darkfire.
let me ask you this question because obviously, and I think I said this on Saturday's show and the last couple of shows on Sportswire, you were probably one of the more viewed WC shows we've had on Sportswire. You were probably one of the more favorite interviews that we've had on Sportswire Radio. Do you think the fan support and the people commenting in a way maybe carried you enough to where you're on this eventual road to recovery? Did this help you at all in any way, shape, or form?
Yeah, especially after the last show we did, there was so many comments reaching out and saying, wishing me luck and all that stuff. It definitely raised spirits for sure. Deep down, it's like you kind of feel alone when something like this happens. You're stuck in your house. You got a neck brace on, and you just feel pretty lonely. And then all of a sudden we did that show, and all these people reaching out just made me feel great. It really did.
No question about it. And also, Skulls continues his attack on Craven Rage, saying Craven Rage is quiet again. Well, I mean, I'm sure he won't be quiet for long, Skulls, because he's going to be with us Wednesday night on Sportswire Radio, so he ain't going to be quiet for too long. So something tells me here that he'll have something to say. But speaking of people that had something to say about you, Mr. Kodak Kid, the picture of perfection, at the end of our show Saturday, there was a young up and coming wrestler called Killer Wolf, and he had a couple different things to say about you. First, he wanted to be in the ring with you to kind of test his skills. And then he actually talked about maybe forming a tag team with you. Now, I know that you're ways to go from eventually returning to the ring here, but I mean, what did you make of those comments from Killer Wolf about you, and anything else now you may want to say toward it?
Killer Wolf, the luchador himself. I appreciate what he said. He said he had a lot of respect for me. Just the fact that I was on the top of his mind makes me feel good. He seems like he's got a lot of promising attributes. He's got a lot of charisma. Um, Not much of a team person, but if I could stand across from him, I'll show him a thing or two.
Well, that would be interesting. You think about it, obviously, you're certainly one of the wrestlers that people look to and watch in this company. Then you've got a guy like Killer Wolf that, is certainly looking to make his mark. And I mean, I think I had asked him this question in terms of looking for wrestlers with advice. I mean, what advice would you give maybe to a Killer Wolf that's kind of up and coming here in WCE?
Stay hungry. That would be definitely. If I'm at the top of his list and he wants to get across the ring for me, he's hungry. So if he's that hungry, he's got to stay hungry. If he wants to be the best, which he was talking about, he's got to beat the best. And Craven Raid aside, there's no one better than me.
Well, I've got three funny acronyms when it comes to hungry. First, Stay Hungry is famously a Twisted Sister album, so clearly somebody's a fan of Twisted Sister. Secondly, again, this is going to be a big, big joke on me, but the band Winger has a song called Hungry, which I think was in one of the old Beavis and Butthead shows, so that's kind of dating myself a little bit. Then, naturally, a wolf is supposed to be hungry, right? Because a wolf is always out for the prey, and
Yeah.
the killer wolf is always hungry. So we're kind of having a good time here on Sportswire tonight. And Skulls says that Craven's soul might leave his body this Wednesday. Well, I mean, we'll have to find out. I mean, certainly that's another cue as to why you should tune in on Wednesday night on Sportswire Radio and about between 10 o'clock and 10:30 Eastern Time. And
Can I just say to Skulls really quick?
absolutely, before I bring up Prince Charles, go ahead.
So Skulls, Craven might be quiet. You might think you're getting him, but he's watching. He's listening and he's strategizing. I know it. I know it. You can't underestimate Craven Rage.
Now, I would even throw it out there now to be objective here and to try to call it down the line because we hear all this about Craven, ba ba bee, ba ba boom, Craven this, Craven that, but do you think in a way, because I asked you this question and I'll phrase it in a different way. Tell me what you think here, the picture of perfection. Kodak Kid. Do you think in a way that this is exactly what Craven Rage wants is for Skulls to say this and that about him? He's going to get him. He's coming on streams and that maybe plays right into the hands of a Craven Rage. Do you think that that's a possibility?
Definitely playing in the hands of Craven Rage. If Craven, you can't get close to him unless he wants you close to him. That's the way Craven Rage works. And he came after me, and now he's got somebody that's right by his side. I'm as close as I'm going to get, and I'm going to take him down.
Well, we're going to certainly find out undoubtedly. And Prince Charles has a comment for Skulls. Don't bite the hand that feeds you. But I don't think that Craven Rage is feeding Skulls. I do think that you have a partial point, but I don't really see the acronym there. But we will have to find out because obviously Skulls always has something to say here, and certainly we are looking forward to hearing more from the picture of perfection. Kodak Kid, we want to update here, is actually taking off his neck brace. He has had a slow road to recovery. He is going into rehab, so we will see if we see him later this season. Here is Wrestling Championship Entertainment's next season continues to kick off here in a few short weeks, which we're covering on Sportswire Radio. The next show is going to be called Luck of the Draw. We're going to see some people in action that we had on Saturday's show, like Zero Deus, who's going to be in the ring. We are also going to see a triple threat match for the Interstate Openweight Championship between the new Messiah, Nicholas Crenson, Catalyst, and Darkfire. I'm going to get your thoughts on that in a second. But James Marshall says here, Craven likes to bide his time until it's time to strike. You're kind of living proof of that. If you think about it, your attack, is it fair to say that that's kind of the example of that?
100%. James Marshall knows Craven Rage very well. I think he hit it nail on the head right there. That's exactly what Craven Rage does and what he did. And I don't think I can let him get away with it.
Well, we're going to find out. I will tell you that much here. And James Marshall also wants to add here. Also glad that you're making strides in recovery.
Thank you, James. It's great to have you watching and
And
tuning
the
in.
and the running joke here from Skulls, because he wanted about cheeseburgers with Zero. Zero still wants a cheeseburger. We wound up asking Zero in our segment with him, what do you like on your cheeseburger and how do you like it done? And I think Skulls is still going off that, which is funny because
Yeah,
I actually haven't had a hamburger in a while. But last night I did have a 12-ounce ribeye steak from Applebee's, which was surprisingly was pretty good. But I haven't had a burger in a while, so yeah,
yeah. You out in that New York area. You like a lot of pizza, huh?
I do like a lot of pizza. I mean, listen, my face should
I
be
see
a
it on
walking
your post.
my face should be a walking acne commercial, right?
Yeah,
Drum roll,
post
stand up
definitely.
comedy. Dun-dun-dun. Yeah, but no, pizza is definitely. I always tell people I'm not Italian, but I certainly might eat like one. But yes, pizza is definitely one of our favorites here. And James Marshall's got a funny comment before I come back to Darkfire. Running a cheese curd run for Mark Packer, who is also glad Kodak is recovering. So certainly, big shout out to Mark Packer out there, our
Exactly.
commissioner of Wrestling
Yep.
Championship Entertainment, who I kept referring to him. I think he was the general manager, but now he's referred to as the commissioner. So certainly, we'll certainly compare him to the likes of previous wrestling commissioners like Sergeant Slaughter. Roddy Piper was a commissioner very briefly in the
Yep.
WWF. We had
Mick
Gorilla
Foley,
Monsoon was one. Mick Foley. Shawn Michaels was one, obviously, for a
Shawn
while. I mean,
Michaels.
Shawn Michaels
Yeah,
was a
yeah.
commissioner for a while, so we'll definitely have here all that stuff. But let's get to Darkfire because I want to ask you actually thoughts on the interstate openweight title situation. So Darkfire says he's going to win that title. He also goes on and says here, I'm going to attempt to win that title, a luck of the draw, and hopefully win. My opponents are very formidable and hard to beat. Now, I know that you won't be there, but you'll certainly be watching as you recover and get
Yeah.
eventually, hopefully, you return to the ring. But what do you make of that triple threat match for the Interstate Openweight Championship? Obviously, the title is vacant, and obviously, we'll see an elimination match for it. And I mean, what's your opinion on who comes away with that?
Oof. Oh man, I love the idea of the match itself. It's a great way to start the season off. Wow. Like, oh man, but who's gonna come away with it? Oh Jesus. There's it's so hard because okay, we just break it down. You break it down into the three people. You
Right.
got the new Messiah, Nicholas Prenson, who I think it's been about 17 years since he's held a title.
Boy, you know what's
Something like
funny that
that.
you just said that because we have referred to that so many times on Sportswire, and I think now we've compared it to like some of the longest playoff droughts and cities
Yeah.
without a championship, and it's. I continue to say it just as we said earlier on Sportswire Radio tonight with the guy Bentley, who's been chasing multiple world titles in different companies, how he hasn't quite won the big one. I mean, it's got to mentally wear on you to the fact that you've gone 17 years without a world title. I mean, I have to think
Yeah.
Nicholas Crenson has the biggest pressure. And on top of that, he's had this long standing war with Darkfire for months.
Yeah. So you add that in, and yeah, you said it yourself. The pressure is got to be just enormous. So like you would think that's going to drive him to win the title, and then you got Catalyst. Catalyst has won the title before. He has
Yes.
been an openweight and state champion, so he knows how much it means. And then you got Darkfire, who is, I believe, he was newcomer of the year, or upcomer
Yes.
of the year
And he
last
had the
year,
match that
something like that,
obviously has really put WC, I think, not only on the
against
national
Craven Reed.
stage, yep, not only on the national stage, but I would say on the global stage because there are thousands and thousands of people that have watched that match.
Yeah, and that was against Craven Rage. So,
Mm-hmm.
and oh man, I personally hope that Darkfire can overcome it and walk away with it. But I'm gonna go with Catalyst. I think Catalyst walks away and is gonna win the title because he knows what it's like to be that champion, and I think he's gonna be able to take it. No offense to either of any of the guys, I love all three of them, but I'm gonna go with Catalyst.
You know, I could certainly see the case as for why you would go with Catalyst here, but I'm really going to go on a limb here. Not because he's become also one of our favorites on Sportswire and he's always messaging me left and right, but, you know, I do think that he finally breaks the ice, finally breaks the streak, and Nicholas Crenson wins his
Yeah,
first major championship in 17 years, because there's got to come to a point where eventually something's got to give. And I kind of think here, this is the moment. I know he's been fighting with management, he's been fighting with Mark Packer, he's had his lawyers out there. But you know what?
yeah,
This is kind of, to me, we talked about the pressure. This is where
yeah,
Nicholas Crenson, he's got to prove what he said. They've been against him, everybody else, that now this is the moment. This is the moment where, like, he's got to prove that he can go
yeah.
and deliver. And I kind of think that maybe this is the time. This is probably his best shot, I kind of think, to get a title, because
This
if he
might
doesn't win it,
this
if he
might be
doesn't
his
win it
last
now,
shot.
and I was about to say that, because I think if he doesn't win it now, Nicholas
Yeah,
Crenson, I think that in terms of like him winning a title, he might have another 17 years to wait. I'm serious.
yeah, yeah. No, oh man, you put that in consideration. Oh, it's gonna be a great show. It's gonna be a great match. I'm excited.
Absolutely. Oh, no
I can't
question
wait.
about it. Listen, this is why WC is one of our favorite companies, and I want everybody to follow again Wrestling Championship Entertainment on Facebook at WCE Heat. Also WCEHeat.com, also YouTube Wrestling Championship Entertainment, and find out why Wrestling Championship Entertainment is one of our favorite companies, as we're getting one step closer to luck of the draw. Forget about WrestleMania, forget about the MLW show coming to New York. It's going to be all about luck of the draw here later at the end of this month into early April. And we are always excited to have on one of our favorites, the picture of perfection, Kodak Kid. My name, you know by now, is the Reverend Tom Bryce. I am the host of the Sports Report, the owner of Sportswire Radio. And if you like what you hear from us, continue to give us a like and follow on Facebook at Sportswire Radio, YouTube at Sportswire Radio, and 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. You can listen to all of our great content on sportnarium.com/play. And I'll be back now tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening, UK time, with the boss, the owner of Colory Championship Wrestling, Mr. James Barris, as they get ready for Miners Mania 2 in a few short weeks. A lot to talk about with Mr. Barris. He has requested a microphone, he has requested the floor, and he is going to have, I have no doubt, a lot to say. That is going to be one you're going to want to tune in for. But in the meantime, we are here now at the picture of perfection, Kodak Kid, who is now recovering from his injury from the hands of Craven Rage, and something tells me here one day he is coming back here to Wrestling Championship Entertainment. Want to give a few shout outs to some people tuned in. Want to give a big shout out to Ron Larry, one of my old favorites from the old Sports Report days. Has always been with us, huge Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan. My condolences to you though on Tom Brady and the season coming up, but love Ron. And also Anastasia Riznia, all the way out there from California, one of your biggest fans, Kodak Kid, no doubt about that. Not so much a fan of me, but definitely a fan of yours. But we are here with you, and I got a couple of comments. And Skull said, "Feed Skull's soul," but he also has an interesting comment, which I want to get to your perspective on before I get to Adonis Felios. Who knows if Craven Rage will be champion by the time Skulls comes? I mean, what do you think about that? Do you think Craven Rage will continue his grip and foothold on Wrestling Championship Entertainment with that all-out title now, which we saw announced here on this show? What do you think of that?
It would take. He's got so much momentum, man. Like he's got so much momentum moving forward into this season. He it's tough to tell if somebody was to take him down and to take his title, then they would really have to be prepared. They would have to be prepared more than you could imagine. I don't, but it might get to his head, and he might let his guard down, and somebody could take advantage of that immediately and take him out.
Well,
So
let me
it's
ask you.
tough,
It's
to
funny.
tell.
It's funny you said all that, because I have to ask you a question, and you're not going to believe what
Yeah,
I'm going to say, but I'm going to ask it to you because obviously we're speaking a lot about Craven Rage, and you have a lot of experience with him, no doubt. But if I were to say to you in a way that maybe you don't want anybody to take Craven Rage's title off. Maybe you want to be that person until the day that you come back. Would you want that scenario? Do you want Craven to continue to be the all-out champion until maybe one day, if that opportunity arises, that you could return to the ring and actually be that guy to kind of take off the title from Craven Rage? Almost be the, let's say, maybe a Cody Rhodes to a Roman Reigns? I mean, is that something you would want? Or do you want somebody to end this run and it's not about you, it's about somebody putting a stop to what Craven Rage has done? What's your thoughts on that?
I would love to be the one to dethrone the ruler of the yard. I would love it. Um, See, it's bittersweet of being a kid and always wanting to grow up to be a champion and to win a title. And on the other end, it really doesn't have anything to do with the title or not. I have to finish what me and Craven Rage started. And if I get that opportunity, it's tough to tell. But I mean, I'd be a liar if I told you I didn't want to take the title away from Craven Rage. But I mean, I'd want to take the title away from anybody because you grow up, you just want to be a champion.
Hey,
You can be the best, but no one's going to call you the best unless you're holding the gold.
you know what? And I'm glad you said that because it's so funny because, and I'll get to a few comments here in a second. But there's some wrestlers we have on, and they say, you know what, Tom? It's about the money, or it's about the championships, or in some cases, we had Bentley on last
Yeah,
night here, which would be now in New York time. It would be about the fans. He does it for the fans. He does it for them, and it's without us, we wouldn't. There would be no fans. We wouldn't be who we are. Yada yada yada. So there's almost kind of different ways to look at it. Some wrestlers are all about the paycheck only. Some wrestlers are just about the championships. We had Disciple on earlier. He's got not one but two world titles in two different companies, and he's talking about going into movies right now. And then you've got Bentley
yeah,
about the fans. So there's always different perspectives from different wrestlers. Let me get to a few comments here. Kodak Kid also says, can't wait to see you again 100% Kodak. Kodak versus Craven would be a banger again. That's a match I think a lot of people out there would pay some money to see. I think that's the match I think a lot of people would want to see. And Skull said for him, it's all about the glory. Well, I mean, what is the glory for you? Is it about the championships? Is it about the money? Is it about the fans? I mean, it's certainly a very vague statement, but I want to bring up Adonis Felios for a second. Not so much for our
yeah,
interview on Saturday, because unfortunately, Adonis, it wasn't so memorable, but there is something that I want to talk about. Make that comeback to WCE possible 1000%. That's fine and well, but I'm sure you heard that we spoke about in Adonis' segment here that we're going to see a champion versus champion match, but they're from different companies at Luck of the
yeah.
Draw. We're going to see the AIW Insane Wrestling Champion, Adonis Felios,
Adonis,
the Drip King, against the Ronins Championship Wrestling Champion, the resident rock star Sean Jovi. So we're going to see in the WCE ring a champion versus champion match from two wrestlers that hold world titles in companies that aren't affiliated with Wrestling
but
Championship Entertainment. From afar, what do you think of that? Because to me, it sounds like the forbidden door has been opened and some.
I personally welcome it. That forbidden door being broken down. Sean Jovi's been a part of WCE for, I believe, since the beginning. I even I before WCE, I wrestled Sean for the RCW title in just a random backyard brawl. It was, and I don't know if you've
That
ever
sounds
seen
so random.
it.
It almost sounds like, hey, you want to have a match? And it was almost like you guys just decided to do it.
Yeah, no, it was definitely that. He opened a challenge. I walked through, and that was the way it should be. And then he dropped me through a table, and I don't remember much after that.
I wouldn't blame
Uh,
you. If you got dropped through a
yeah.
table, for those that are watching and listening, you'd probably not remember either.
Oh yeah, and if you guys haven't seen it, you can go to Sean Jovi's YouTube. It's on there. It's Kodak Kid versus Sean Jovi. It was a great match. I didn't get to walk away from it, but tables kind of hurt, and it's hard to get up from that. So, so but the Forbidden Door, I love it. I love the idea of it. Any kind of exposure is good exposure, you would think. So, um, I'm personally, I love them both, but I'm going to go with Sean Jovi in that him being the resident rock star. I don't think Adonis is ready for Sean Jovi.
I think certainly a lot of people are going to certainly put their money on Sean Jovi, the resident rock star, undoubtedly, certainly the Ronus Championship Wrestling World Champion against the AIW Champion, the Drip King Adonis Velios. Want to get to a few comments here. The lawman Kyle Kennedy, Mr. Sportswire himself, is here. Which, by the way, in England it is 2:54 a.m. So I have to ask you, the lawman Kyle Kennedy, what the hell are you doing up on a Tuesday morning in the UK? We love you, bro. But I mean, obviously, definitely wondering. Well, we actually love him so much. We actually have a shirt on the way coming from him. So I'm looking forward to wearing my lawman Kyle Kennedy shirt, just like I'm wearing my Big Cheese Logan shirt. And just like also, I got a signed, that's right here, a signed picture from Big Cheese Logan, all the way from the UK. So what a class guy, just like WC Wrestling Championship Entertainment. We have some shirts from them. So we certainly love everybody here that supports us. And also, Skull says about the question about the glory, it's the feeling of winning. And Skull said he also knows about tables. So he apparently knows about tables. Now, Skulls, do you know about the table that Kodak Kid was put through? That's the $1,000,000 question, or the $1,000,000 question, some people might want to say. And also, Adonis Velios says, Jovi versus Velios, champ versus champ is going to steal the show. I mean, let me ask you a follow-up on this, and obviously we'll get to a few more closing thoughts from you. I realize, obviously, you're still recovering, and I still don't want to put you through the ringers here. But, I mean, do you think that we should see more of this? And is this something that other wrestling companies, I've asked this question before to different companies from wrestlers, whether it's in the UK, whether it's here in the States. And I mean, do you think it's something that companies shy away from for different reasons? Or do you think here maybe this could be the start of different things? I mean, walk me through your thoughts on that possibly.
Uh, they definitely. I think a lot of companies shy away from it just because they want to be exclusive to themselves. They want all the attention on you know themselves. So like if it's Jovi versus Filios, then it technically would take away from WCE, and but on the opposite end, I think it would bring in more viewers. Like I would rather have three
That's what I
wrestling
think.
companies watching me wrestle than one wrestling company watching me
Absolutely.
wrestle.
Listen, I personally think before I get to the lawman Kyle Kennedy, I'm always a believer if somebody can work with somebody else, why not do it? I mean, look, for example, when Kenny Omega was the Impact Wrestling World Champion, among other companies,
Yeah.
right? Impact Wrestling got so many added eyeballs, and people came back to Impact because they wanted to see Kenny Omega wrestle for their company. Christian Cage held their title for a little while for the same reason.
Yep.
I personally feel that the Forbidden Door should always be open. I always enjoyed
Oh.
when there was working relationships with ECW and the WWF at the time, or I enjoy that there's relationships
Yep.
with companies like right now with MLW and Impact. I also enjoy with the fact that we see companies in the UK work together in some form. I to me think that the Forbidden Door should always be open. That's what wrestling's about. Listen, Access TV owns Impact Wrestling. We also see New
Yeah.
Japan and Impact Wrestling work together. So to me, the Forbidden Door
Yeah.
should always be open. The lawman wants to say, figured I'd tune in. It's been a while, my friend. I appreciate you purchasing my shirt. Amen to that. Thank you for all you do. Everybody follow the lawman Kyle Kennedy on Instagram at Mr. Justice Kyle Kennedy, the lawman K Kennedy on Twitter, and also YouTube and Facebook. Please support him. He's one of our favorites. We're going to have him on before April the 1st, where the Lawman, who, by the way, is 1/4 of the first ever tag team champions in nonstop action wrestling, will be in action. He could also have a second title to his collection, the Youngbloods Championship there. So we will have him on before April the 1st, nonstop action wrestling's show coming up. We will certainly look forward to that Zenith, and it's going to be a big show. Be there or be square. Skulls also says, Skulls, thanks for revealing this. I went off a roof through a table at EAW for the EAW Hardcore Championship. That almost sounded like for a minute it was an EA Sports game. But first of all,
Yeah.
what made you want to go through a roof? I mean, through a table. I mean, that sounds like you really might just been a skull that we would have saw in one of those skulls in the cemetery that I live by. But that's here nor there. But I realize we've got about 10 or so minutes with you, and I want to be respectful of your time, obviously going through this injury and such, and going through this rehab. And, what do you want to say to anybody that supported you here through this recovery, and anybody that's been watching and supporting you and that's helped you get, maybe if I could put it in steps, kind of halfway to the finish line. We're not quite there.
Yeah,
We're not even
yeah.
almost there. Well, we're about halfway to the finish line. What do you want to say to anybody that's watching this, supported you, anybody in WC, as you're about halfway there, we think, into you coming back?
I'd have to say I show them my utmost appreciation and gratitude. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the support and the get well wishes and all that good stuff. It just really pulled me out of, really, like I said earlier, it was a really dark, lonely place for a little bit, and then we had that second show. It was that second show, and just the outreach of incredible people and incredible fans that just really gets me where I need to be. And as you said, like, we could say halfway. I'll give you halfway. But it's not completely there yet, and it might not ever be when it comes to getting back in the ring. But it definitely gets me a step closer every time I get to hear from them.
Well, I'll tell you what, I will say this. I mean, I certainly hope that we don't have to wait as long as, let's say, for Shawn Michaels to return to a ring, because famously we had to wait 4.5 years for him to
Yep.
formally come back to the WWF and have a match. And obviously, Lita was, I think, just about 2 years before she came back after she broke her neck. So I hope we don't have to wait that long. I mean, I realize that we don't know if you'll ever fully recover. I totally get that. And we've spoke about that. But you have that neck brace off. And that's the big
Yeah,
thing here tonight. What we've accomplished here, for those that are listening and watching, especially the fans of Wrestling Championship Entertainment, that the picture of perfection, Kodak Kid, can figuratively and literally look up, because he can look up to the fact that now he might have a shot, a light at the tunnel, that he could just maybe return to the ring. Will it be at the end of the season? I don't know. Will it be next year? I don't know. Will it be next month? Who knows? Who knows what the future brings? That's going to be up to the doctors. That's going to be up to Mark Packer. That's going to be up to ownership here. So we're going to certainly find out here. Also have a couple of more comments here. Skull said it was a deathcore match, a.k.a. Last Man Standing. The Lord Man Kyle
uh,
Kennedy, which I think is spot on here. Absolutely agree. Always good to partner with other promotions. Get your eyes on your product, and theirs can never go wrong with that. More eyes on professional wrestling, no matter which company. I mean, I'm sure you'd agree with that, obviously.
100%, definitely.
And I think
Thank
wrestling,
you.
yeah, and I think wrestling is in a healthier state, because you think about, even, let's take a step back and leave aside Nonstop Action Wrestling, WCE, GT Ministries, you name a company, leave them out. When we go back to the days of the 70s and into the early 80s and certainly into earlier times, wrestling companies worked with one another. Whether it was the
Yeah,
NWA, we saw Ric Flair wrestle in the WWF. Whether it was the
yeah,
WWF working with the AWA, or Mid South Professional Wrestling, or certainly Stampede Wrestling, or the World of Sport Days in the UK for our UK fans. I mean, to me, I always think at the end of the day, going back to the early beginnings of wrestling, promoters always worked with one another, because if you bring in
yeah,
somebody else that's coming in from another place, you're going to have a match there. I think it's for the best for everybody, because to me, look at where wrestling was up until, let's say, I would say 4 years ago, until maybe the Ring of Honor show at Madison Square Garden, which led to the formation of AEW. You really only
yeah,
had one and a half company for almost 15
yeah,
years. That was WWE. I mean, Impact, TNA was somewhat,
kind of.
kind of, right? So you had one and a half companies, but that's it. So to me,
Yeah,
that wasn't really where wrestling to me was healthy. Now, though, you've got so many opportunities. The NWA is alive. You've got Impact has made a comeback. You've got AEW. Major League Wrestling is on the Reels Network here in America. You've got the WW. You've got Women of Wrestling. Wow, you've got that on syndicated
Yeah,
channels. I mean, you've got a whole list of places in the territories, especially in places like the UK. Things are definitely healthy. Also, a few more comments before we get to closing thoughts. Luck of the draw and Dead or Alive, WCE's back in full effect. And let's hope Mother Nature cooperates because certainly I know here in New York, we're almost kind of getting like a reboot of winter when it kind of felt like we were supposed to get
yeah,
like
us
back into
too.
spring. Yeah, so let's hope for that. And Skull said AEW working with AAA, Ring of Honor, TNA. Yeah, well, Ring of Honor, Tony Khan owns. AAA, I don't
Yeah.
think they're working with them currently, and they've worked with Impact. Yes, which I had mentioned before with Kenny Omega. And we saw who was it? We had Christian Cage, but then it was we had what's the guy's name? I'm trying to think of them. It was it was the team they're in WWE now. The original Bullet Club. That's it. Yeah, some of the Bullet Club
Oh,
guys.
yeah.
They were actually also in AEW as the Impact Wrestling Tag Team Champions. That's it. That's why I have a good enough memory. Also, the Lawman says, and yes, Tom, your boy promises to become the inaugural Young Blood champion as well. My society brethren in retaining our tag team titles. You better believe that. The society right now, by the way, they are the hottest tag team around. There's not one, not two, not three, but even four of them. They're all going to be in action coming up at Nonstop Action Wrestling's Zenith show April the 1st. Ensor Wrestling UK, Ensor Rest _ UK on Twitter, YouTube Nonstop Action Wrestling, and you can watch the full show for free on Instagram at Ensor Wrestling UK. And the Lawman Kyle Kennedy is going to be his own double champion. So certainly looking forward to all of that here. But I know you're slowly recovering. So we've asked you a lot. I realize that. So I don't want to keep you too much longer because I could certainly ask you more questions. I don't want to pepper you because you got to think about maybe tomorrow and maybe slow steps, baby steps, everything else. So I want to give you the floor now, my friend, and give you some closing thoughts. And anything else you want to plug, share, say, maybe anything you want to say for a rather quiet Craven Rage here tonight is going to be back with us Wednesday on Sportswire Radio. So I turn it over to you. Anything else you want to share? You definitely know the drill by now, and floor is yours.
The only thing I have to say would be Craven Rage. Oh, that name. That name just gets to me. It
It's
just
like
irks
Rage
me.
Against the Machine. I always think of when I hear a Rage Against the Machine song,
Yeah,
I always think like Born of a
yeah,
Broken Man, or I always
yeah.
Killing in the Name of. I think of Craven Rage.
He better hope that I cannot walk into that ring because if I am able to, he will not walk out of it.
Ooh.
That's pretty much it, man. I need I need to do this for me. I need to do this for him. I need to do this to finish the story of Craven Rage and Kodak Kid. Belts or not. I'd love to take the belt from him, but even if he doesn't have it, he's the only person and the only thing that I have my eyes on.
Well, I'll tell
Besides
you
Jim
what.
Dawkins.
Well, I'll tell you what. Stay tuned. Definitely stay tuned to Wrestling Championship Entertainment at WCE Heat on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. Follow them at WCEHeat.com. And I'll tell you what, I'll make this boast. As the host of the Sports Report, the owner of Sportswire Radio, the Reverend Tom Bryce. If the day comes you are cleared for in-ring action, I want to see here with us on Sportswire a face-to-face, you, Craven Rage. That's what I want to see. If that day comes,
Yeah.
you're cleared to in-ring action, I want to see you and Craven Rage here, mano a mano, and we get to moderate that, and we get to talk about that. But I'm sure somebody out there in the back is listening to that, and I'm sure Mr. Craven Rage, who's back with us Wednesday night, is also going to. A few more comments before we leave. The Lawman Kyle Kennedy says, yes, absolutely pro wrestling is back in the mainstream. It's amazing to see. I'd be a bit biased if I didn't say the UK scene is on fire right now. I would say it's even on more than fire because I think
Yeah.
about all the companies, the new companies. I think about Firestar Pro Wrestling, which we've seen obviously Young Horace from Nonstop Action Wrestling a part of. I think about CCW, Carnage Championship Wrestling. Ensor. I think about Breakout Pro Wrestling. I think about Blackheart Wrestling. I think about UKW. I think about GT Ministries, the LWF, Odyssey Pro Wrestling, KOW. I think about Superstar Pro Wrestling. I think about Progress. I think about TNT, Wrestle Island. I mean, you go up and down the different places in the UK, from the north to south, the east to the very in between. The UK scene right now, I'm going to say it, I think it's the best scene right now in the world. And that's why we love covering it here on Sportswire, because I watch, and Bolton Town as well, I want to throw out there. I mean, I watch these matches. Guys send them to me, gals send them to me. I just love what our UK brethren do. They are just so awesome. And thank you, the lawman Kyle Kennedy. He wishes you very well. And the lawman Kyle Kennedy, I'm going to be in touch with him tomorrow because we're going to bring him back before April the 1st. And two more comments before we bounce. Time for Skulls to hit the gym for WC. Thank you, Skulls, for the gym update. Certainly, Skulls is always a busy, busy man, but he always makes time for us. So Skulls is definitely one of our favorites, and I can't wait to wear my Skulls shirt, which I was supposed to get in the mail. I got this shirt from Manchester in the UK quicker than a Skulls shirt. So certainly we are hoping to get that Skulls shirt soon. Craven versus Kodak Kid, the final draw. I'll tell you what, somebody out there might be listening. Adonis Felio says, thanks, Tom. As always, Sportswire Radio is still #1 worldwide. The heart of all pro wrestling, because we do cover it all. I cover it here in Wisconsin, California, the EWF, and Valley Pro Wrestling, Wrestling Warzone. I cover it in the UK. I cover it in Canada. You name it, nobody else covers it like we do on Sportswire Radio. My friend, congratulations on the small victory here today with the neck brace being removed. Thank you for this. We look forward to having you on very, very soon. We look forward to continue to marching to luck of the draw, my friend. Keep it going, one step at a time. It's all baby steps, and definitely, I think there just maybe is light at the end of the tunnel.
Thank you so much, Tom. You have a good night.
Absolutely, amen to that. And also the lawman we will definitely be in touch with tomorrow. And if you are on sportnarium.com/player, you will go back to your regularly scheduled programming. I will have a busy, busy show tomorrow as well. I am on twice, one for wrestling and one for college basketball. First, I'm going to be on here with James Barris, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 o'clock British Standard Time. He is the owner of Cutlery Championship Wrestling. He is getting ready for Miners Mania 2, and I am certainly going to speak with him for sure a lot about the state of professional wrestling. Some people like Kyle Kennedy, Dan Robertson, who knows who else more. I'll definitely have Mr. Barris on for a lot of comments and a lot of talk, no doubt. Then I'll be back around between 7:30 and 8 o'clock Eastern Time with the legendary, now Hall of Famer from the Brooklyn College men's basketball team, the only team to have ever made the NCAA Final Four from the CUNY Athletic Conference, Mr. Danny Burns, now Hall of Famer. Danny, always one of our biggest supporters. Really looking forward to speaking with Danny about being inducted into the Hall of Fame, what that meant to him, the guys, everybody else. So very, very excited to be with our dear friend Danny Burns, who was with us last month for our college basketball coverage, playoff coverage for our SJLI Golden Eagles men's basketball team. So very, very busy day ahead. We'll have James Barris on in the afternoon. Then in the evening time, we'll have on Danny Burns, the legendary Brooklyn College Athletics Hall of Famer from that only team in the entire history of CUNY. Every sport doesn't matter. The only team to have been in the Final Four is the legendary Danny Burns, the Hall of Famer, Danny Burns, and I'm going to speak with him once again. So thank you, everybody. And also, as Skulls pointed out correctly, Wednesday night, Craven Rage. I know you're going to be listening to that one. So thank you, everybody, here for watching and listening on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and sportnarium.com/player. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce. Thank you, Kodak Kid, and good night on the #1 global radio station that is Sportswire.